Hello everyone, this is PK Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you, and we're going to talk about Batgirl again and take another look at the costume and ask whether we are any more convinced in this aesthetic for the character, with the upcoming movie due to be released on HBO Max later on this year. Now, we already had the first reveal of actress Leslie Grace in the lead role with the costume, and I gave my initial thoughts in a separate video and I will leave some links in the description. Now, overall the reveal divided audiences. Some liked the fact that it was very comic book accurate, taken from the 2014 comic book version, but others felt that the outfit looked very cheap. It had that very much biker jacket material and look about it, and it looked like something from the CW. Many people felt that the costume had a certain flatness about it, and it wasn't very the best in terms of complementing Leslie's figure. Now, recently we've had a lot more behind the scenes photos released from the project, and there was even a short 40-second video that was released recently on Twitter. So it's very clear that Warner Brothers is putting this material out there to try and gauge audience reaction. The project is still being filmed now, and it's also been confirmed that Michael Keaton will shortly start filming his scenes in February this year. So when looking at the recent photos of the costume, I have to say overall I'm still very mixed on the overall look. I was a bit more positive in my first initial reaction, but now I'm a bit indecisive overall. If we look at a couple of the photos, so this first one here, and initially it does look a lot cooler. It looks far more dynamic with Leslie standing in his pose here. Now obviously this is a far more of a darker shot, and when you zoom in on this picture you actually see that Batgirl has some night goggles. They look very cool. The cape looks far more black, but I think that's just down to the lighting overall. If we remember from the first look, it actually had a yellow colouring on the inside of the cape, again matching the comic book version. And if there was one issue that I had with this overall look, it was the actual boots. I just feel they just really stick out from the overall costume, and they look a bit big and bulky. So that was the only real issue that I had in terms of this overall picture. Now when we took a look at this second picture overall, I like this look. It's got a bit more of that purple colour to it. I think the cowl looks good, and the insignia looks actually brighter here. So this second photo is very good. We then go on to this third photo here, and this is more of a continuation of the previous photo, but again it's far less flattering on Leslie's figure. The cowl looks very good, but it's just the material of the costume. Again, it's got a very cheap fabric feel about it. I'm still feeling that they should have gone for a far more figure tight costume just to accentuate more her curves and hips. And then we come on to the fourth picture here, and this is probably the shot that got most attention on social media, where we see Batgirl is very bloodied at the mouth. So in terms of the costume, this is actually the first shot where I'm not as convinced by the cowl. Maybe it's just the angle that we're coming in on here. It doesn't look as convincing overall. A lot of people have been commenting on these photos that this will indeed be the first look. As per the comic book storyline, Barbara Gordon actually constructs the costume herself. So will we later on get an improved look later on down the line within the movie? I certainly hope so. I also don't subscribe to that as an excuse overall. Why would you go for a much weaker version of the costume, especially first impressions, and especially when this is the first really big budget lead story for Batgirl? You want the costume to look awesome as possible all the time. But in terms of this look here, the fact that she's looking very bruised and battered, is that an indication of how far they will go in terms of the action and the violence? Now, of course, we're not expecting anywhere near the same turn as what we got with the MCU Netflix shows. Of course not. And I don't think this will be an R-rated show. They'll want this to appeal to far more bigger demographics as possible, since this is Batgirl. I wouldn't expect this to adopt anywhere near the same tone as what we got with the Peacemaker series. But it does beg the question, how capable will they make Barbara Gordon in terms of a fighter? But in terms of the recent photos, this is probably the least convincing in terms of whether I feel the costume is great or not. So we then go on to the quick video that we saw released on Twitter. It's only about 42 seconds long, and we see where Barbara Gordon is very active. It looks like she's just running out of a building that's on fire, and she seems to grab a criminal or a crook and seems to be interrogating him before all of the fire vehicles come to put down the fire. So again, are they going to be looking to make Barbara Gordon a very intense combatant? We all know the recent criticisms that were aimed at Batwoman, especially when Ruby Rose was in the first season, because she was a very slender and light individual, and you had her in these action sequences when she's beating on these guys that are at least 200 to 250 pounds. So it was a huge suspension of disbelief. Will they make the same mistake with this Batgirl film, or will they try to measure it a lot more and have her in far more convincing fight sequences? But in terms of this second look, I'm still mixed overall in terms of the costume. I hope they retain the colour, because I think that distinguishes Batgirl a lot more if she has much more of a purple shade rather than the typical black costume that we associate with Batman so much. Who knows, maybe as the film develops they will go into the other version of the character where we see her adopting the much more of the light grey and the blue cape that we see, especially from the comic books and also the Batman animated series as well. But I am expecting some sort of evolution in terms of the look when it arrives on screen. So those are my overall quick thoughts and feelings on the second extended look with Leslie Grace in the Batgirl costume. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you any more convinced? Do you think several improvements need to be made in terms of the overall costume? Or are you completely satisfied with this version? And does this make you even more hyped to see the movie when it arrives later on this year? Let me know what you think in the comments. Please also hit and like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay safe distances, and I will see you very, very soon.